Hi!
Hi!
This is Safe Sunday with the Ancient
Ones.
Yay! I'm your host, Angela, and this is...
Call me Pythia.
Yay!
And we are going to discuss different topics every week for the next few weeks about what the ancient Greek sages were philosophizing about. And so today's topic is...
Why do we follow the gods?
So we're going to go ahead and talk about that a little bit for you guys and give you guys our opinions on what we do and why we do it. All right, so go ahead, hit it off with the first topic.
Okay, why do we follow the gods? Today, like many people worship different gods from many pantheon. And why do we follow it? We need a sense of divinity in our life. Like, why do we need the gods like to guide us of how to mature, grow not just spiritually but mentally and physically, and how to cope with our problem, how to wisen up in our everyday life, not just mundane but magical also. And we follow the God just as a sense of archetype, patron to, I would say, like a guide to teach us stuff about ourselves that we don't know, that we know, but with all the everyday stuff that almost we turn a blind eyes to it. And to me, I feel like this is the reason we follow the God, to teach us about experience.
I feel like we follow the gods, and we say gods here so that we're including all of the gods from each pantheon. Angello and I have very diverse backgrounds. He is, I'll let him introduce himself and tell you a little bit about himself. But for me, in my experience, as I'm following my God, and if you guys follow my channel, you'll notice that my patron god is Apollo, and he is the sun god. I am not Greek. I never heard of Apollo. And sometimes when you're developing your intuition or your spiritual gifts, or you're on the path, certain gods present themselves to you, and then it's your choice to decide whether you want to assume a relationship with these types of archetypes or gods. So I feel as though I follow my God to help me understand myself, to help me have more compassion for other people, and really it brings me harmony in the community, as we are both very involved in the spiritual community where we are, and it helps us just understand them better and understand ourselves so that we can help other people ascertain that information as well. So yeah, so go ahead and say a little bit about yourself, so that since this is your first video on my channel. Thanks for being here.
Me, in a sense, I work with the elemental, the children of nature, which is those of the fairy, the elf, the gnome. But my god that I follow, I have so many diverse gods, but I would say I follow the god Pan, which is I call one of the woodland god. But there's also Dionysus, which is the god of wine, liberation. And also I follow the moon goddess, which is a very intuitive god, a deity. There's also male moon god also, it's not just female. But with the moon, it helped me connect spiritually, but also intuitively and emotionally, which is the realm of dream, but also secret, magic, and knowledge. And with the god Pan and Dionysus, it helped me to ground myself with the energy of the earth, but also to explore that masculine side of myself, because those gods are very masculine, but they understand there needs to be a balance with the feminine and the masculine. And with the god's Pan, it's very just like hot-blooded. It teaches you how to acknowledge this feeling within yourself. Yeah.
I also follow the moon god. I follow Artemis and Selene, or not follow them, as they were the ones who introduced themselves to me on my path, and we can totally get more on that later.
Absolutely.
But I followed them. Growing up, however, I grew up very traditional, very Catholic. I went to Bible study. Growing up, I went to teen clubs. So every week I had a Bible study on Monday and a teen club on a Wednesday, and it's always... my friends, they were Pentecostal, so I understood that. I have friends who are Jehovah's Witnesses and Christians. And when I decided to get away from the main church, I actually wound up coming to Eucharist for a little while. And that actually got me closer to being more open-minded as far as spiritualism goes. And that led me to the point where I am today, which you wouldn't think mainstream religion really gets you to a more spiritual perspective, because we, for some reason, we separate the two, but they're really one and the same. And I have someone that comes to my center who is Jewish, and she says, coming here actually brings me closer to my faith. So I just want you guys to understand that it doesn't matter what the face is on your God. It's about just that whatever resonates with you and whatever brings you closer to yourself. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It makes sense, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's why we follow the gods. It pretty much helps us out and helps us understand the way the world works.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty simple. How to pick your God? I feel like we start to develop the need or the want for God when we see it in our lives or we see it in our families, because most people that I grew up with was like, oh, they're Catholic or Christian, so they automatically assume they were Catholic and Christian because their family practiced that. I don't think that we necessarily pick our gods. I feel like we're influenced in a way where then they kind of adapt. We kind of adapt to who they are. It's kind of like when you make a friend the first time and they're not automatically your friend, or they're not automatically, if you're looking for a relationship, they're not automatically your lover. You have to like get to know them, feel them out. Is this person a good fit for your relationship in whichever way? So I feel like that in that way, that's how we actually pick our gods. And for the last, I don't know, for all summer at my center, we did a series called the Ascended Master Series. And every week we winded up channeling or needing a different deity from different pantheons, from different places all around the world. And a lot of people were surprised that they were connecting to deities who were not even, who they never even heard of.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, with the how to pick the god, and how she say I come from a Catholic family too. So with that, I had a very formal thing of how Catholic think. And as I grew up into my spiritual life, I started to sense this different power that resonate with me. You have to help you think outside the box. And I feel like sometimes we do pick the God, but sometimes the God pick us to help us experience stuff spiritually, especially when you want to connect and help people. There's a certain God that you resonate with and that choose you to help you basically better understand yourself.
Yeah. I think that's all I had to say about how you pick your gods. I guess if you wanted to do it as a developmental thing, you can check out my channel. I have maybe like 8 Ascended Masters on there you guys can check out and see if any of them resonate with you. Do the meditation, meet them, and see if you can work with them. I would recommend Doreen's Virtue Ascended Masters book. And in there's 22 Ascended Masters that you can learn about. And just work with them. Just because you're working with the God doesn't mean that you're switching religions or that you're proclaiming yourself to be in this particular box. So don't think that because you're working with Kuan Yin, which is this Kuan Yin right here, that automatically this is your religion. You can work with different deities and not commit to anything as far as religious or labels. I'll say labels go. So yeah, I think that's that. So how does a god or goddess resonate with you? You can start with that.
I think with that, I say God and goddess. We can't forget the goddesses because they're badass.
Looking at you, Artemis.
Yay! How does it resonate with you? Because like when a god picks you, you have to find out how does that god relate to you. I pick Artemis for example. People look at her because she's a very independent goddess. She knows what she wants. She always have her eyes on sight on something. And how does that kind of resonate with you in your everyday life when you want something that's kind of help you? It's almost like you're gonna channel Artemis' power to like keep your eyes on that specific, target, and just to trust your gut at an instant. Because Artemis, she's a huntress goddess per se. And she always have her bow and arrow ready to strike at any time in any place. Just like there's the goddess, but there's also how does a male god resonate with you? If you, let's say I would choose a male god, let's say Shiva from the Indian Hindu pantheon. Shiva is one of the cosmic god, and maybe if you want to understand how the universe work, maybe you want to like how does Shiva resonate with you to see that
connect with Shiva to see what you can get from her or him.
Oh, him, absolutely, and how to see how all the dots are connected. And it's almost it's just not it's not just not inner work, but it's also outer work also. You have to look at every facet in your everyday life, but also how to connect in a deeper level in your soul with that God, because they're a being of spirit, which sometimes it can take flesh, but it's like very. But yeah.
Yeah. So looking at the parts of your life where you feel like you need help. Do you need help in your love life? Do you need help in your career? What are the questions that you're always asking yourself? So hone in on those questions that you're always asking yourself. Do I need inner peace? Do I need calmness? Do I need patience? And then you can go ahead and do a little search on what God has these virtues, because each God represents different characteristics. And that's the important part of this, I feel like, of this video today, is understanding that not all gods are created equal. And there is no wrong choice here. There really isn't. It's whatever works with you. Not everyone is going to understand you working with gods. And I say gods because, you know, of the plural amount of gods. And as far as like my personal journey goes, I've been working with Apollo, and it's because he chose me. I didn't even know of him. And I've been working with Artemis because she chose me. I didn't even know who she was. Last week I had someone say, "Who's Kumara?" And I laughed and I said, that's this ascended master. And that was the message for them to work with this particular ascended master they never even heard of. And how do they resonate with you? If you feel like, wow, well, the attributes or characteristics of this God really hit home for me, it really feels like those are the things that I want to work on and I want to work with, then I'll go ahead and work with this particular God for however long you see fit. But understand that when you're working with specific gods, they need different things. Some of them don't need anything. Some of them just need you to channel them. But some of them have ritual, which they would appreciate you to respect them and give them a blessing so that they can give you blessing. And so you need to make sure that when you're invoking or trying to work with a god, that you really know the rules of that god. And I'm not saying break the rules, because I'm not a rule breaker in that regard. It's kind of like if you know someone and you know they hate tuna, and they're like, okay, I'm going to buy you lunch today, and then you don't care that they hate tuna because you like tuna, so you bought them tuna. They're just going to look at you like
really?
Right, like I told you specifically I don't like tuna. So just be fair, because this is a relationship that you are creating.
An intimate one.
And let's see. Let's talk a little bit about risque gods. I have a risque god as my spirit guide, and some people, when I ask about him to psychics or readers or seers, they kind of give me like the stink eye, like. And I'm just like, no. So my spirit guide is Odin, and if you don't know about Odin, Odin is the god of death and the god of war. And you might go, whoa, that's really dark. But the reality is he's also the god of knowledge. So he works with me in the regard of opening up information. As I am the Oracle of Apollo, I do work specifically with a lot of ancient information, and he works with me in that regard. So is there like a risque god that you have that people just go, oh, why are you doing that?
I would say risque would be Dionysus. Even though he's the god of wine and liberation, people are associating with the god of madness. Which means if you come with, I guess, with a disrespectful energy, he can entice madness in you. And that would make people go very in a madness frenzy or bloodlust, and they can't recognize friend from foe. So with that, it's very you need to be careful how you present yourself with that god. And people, even though he's a god of madness, there's a reason why he's inflicted madness on some people, because they can be, I would say, very insulting. They don't recognize that divinity in him because of how he's associated with everything. I guess primal. I wouldn't want to say savage, but not savage. I'm gonna say primal because it's everything is very deep, earth, ground connected, and people see that as a very not sophisticated in a sense, and that tend to be insulting to that. So when I connect with them, I tend to be very careful, but also surrender to whatever, I guess, knowledge you want to give to me.
Yeah. Fair enough. So let's talk a little bit about how we connect with the gods in our everyday lives.
Mhm.
You can start off with that.
How do you connect? Well, after you resonate and pick a god, you have to find how does that god walk with you, not just in rituals or when the moon is full, but every area in your life. When you wake up, when you go to work, when you go to sleep, when you see your friend, when you're eating, how does that god, how do you connect with that god? Let's say Dionysus, for example, is the god of wine. You're having a glass of wine, and at that moment, it kind of pops out in your mind. Maybe you want to raise the glass, says, "Hail Dionysus," this is your favorite beverage. You maybe want to give a little offering to them. If you're eating something good, you can think of Demeter. She's the goddess of harvest, and you want to silently thank her for that. Friendship. There's the goddess of love, Aphrodite. You love your friend, and you want to give thanks to her, but it's not just like every day. Well, of course every day, but mundane, magical, spiritual, physically and mentally, and you need to have that state of connection every day. Of course, we're gonna forget some stuff because we have so many stuff that we do in our life.
Yeah.
But it's always good to keep a mindful for that split second to appreciate how the God are connecting with you.
Okay, so that's a great answer. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I connect with my gods in my life. We're actually in my house right now, so what you see here is my items. Maybe next time Angelo can bring some of his items, you guys can check it out. But here are some gods that I use on my actual altar that I work with every single day. So we have Hermes right here. I'll pull him up right there. And Hermes is an ancient Greek god. He's a messenger god, but he's also a trickster god. So some people might see him a little bit unfavorable. He is the fastest god and is the only god in the Greek pantheon that's said to be able to get into every single realm, including Tartarus. So I find him very interesting. When I meet with him, he speaks really fast. And when I dialogue with him, I basically give him my worries, so to speak. I talk to him like he's my friend. I'll just be like, "Hey, Hermes, I'm having this issue. I'm just going to give it to you. Could you bring me back a message in some form to help me figure out what I need to do?" The last time I consulted with him, it was about communication and opening up my clairaudience to the next level. So I basically just went to him, I said it, and then he just takes my information away. Apollo right here, I work with him every day as well, not just on my altar, but when I go outside, I revere the God. I say thank you for your blessings and your rays. When I'm at my center, there's a certain time of day that all the windows are just flooded with the most beautiful lights. That's a precious gift. And I sit in that light for a few minutes and I just put my mind on my blessings and I reflect on the things that I'm grateful for. And that's how I work with him. I have Kuan Yin right here, and she's also my altar here at home and here at my center. And when I work with her, it's usually to provide, because she's a compassion goddess, a love goddess. I usually speak with her when I want to be able for someone to get peace, or if they're going through a difficult time, I pray to her and say, "Can you help this person attain a career or whatever it is that they're going through, and help them to release their struggles?" And that's basically how I work with them. I work with them by talking to them. I work with them by acknowledging their presence when there is something that reminds me of them. Like I was at the park the other day with Angelo, and Hermes crane, actually huge crane, just came up, and we were all just like, "Oh, Hermes crane!" And everyone knew, so we acknowledged it, and we're grateful for the message. And then of course we think about Pythia, Python, and so forth. So we have the snake here, also symbolizing knowledge. It has the apple inside. And the way I auditionally work with them, there's actually oil in here. And I give offering to my little gods by just putting my thumb in my oil, and I give offering to each of my deities is in that form. So basically that's how I work with them. I feel like I talk to them a lot. There's always thoughts in my mind that I give to them, or worries, or things I'm developing, and I kind of just give it to them. And sometimes I get messages back, but sometimes I don't. But for the majority of the part, I feel like I do. And I just want to go real quick in between prayer and meditation. When you pray, you're speaking, and when you're meditating, you're listening. So just be mindful that when you're praying, you don't always get an answer because you're speaking.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one calling the collect call.
Yeah.
So meditation in your daily life is very instrumental to your development.
Absolutely.
So what's the next question?
How to know which God is right for you?
Okay. So, I feel like I've been through a lot of religions in my life. Because growing up, I felt like I was always searching for an answer. I had a very crazy upbringing. And it wasn't the most ideal kind of upbringing. But I remember being Christian. I remember being Catholic. I remember getting baptized Episcopalian. In the military. It was just whatever it was that Sunday. And I feel like I resonated with everything. And for a while, you know, it was in my ignorance, though, I started to push away gods or deities. Like, I personally know people who push away Jesus. And I've also used to push away Jesus because we kind of put him in a box.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he stands for this religion and I don't associate myself with this religion because of all the bad things that they've done in that religion. And so now I'm afraid of him, or I don't resonate with him, or I just don't like him. And you have to really understand that the deities and the gods are pure. They are not diluted the way us, the receivers, dilute them and switch their words and their thoughts and behaviors around. So I feel like there was a checklist that I went through as I was growing up of what I liked and what I didn't like, and has led me to this point now where you see that there's many different types of deities on my table and many philosophies and understandings that I have adapted to. So how I found it was right for me, it felt good in my heart. I felt like there was movement in my life. I felt like there was clarity. I felt a shift, a positive shift. I felt more embracing of other people's flaws, and I gained patience.
Yeah. For me, being a Catholic family, so it was always follow the teaching of Jesus and Mary. And as I grew up in my teenage year, my sense kind of resonated more to the Egyptian gods. And then from Egyptian, I went to Greek. From Greek, I went to Celtic. From Celtic, I went to the Hindu god. And from Hindu, I went to the elemental. So it's just a pinpoint. And then until I found how she said what's right for you and how it resonates with you emotionally, but also in every area in your life. It's like almost like it's a gut instinct. You're like, wow, this is right for me. And I think with that, that's what it is. It's such, it's not a long answer. It's just like, it's know what that is right. Just like you pick a favorite color, you know that color is right for you, and then when you
but you gotta try on the color.
Of course.
Yeah, you gotta
once
try
you
it on.
try it, you feel like,
yeah,
it feels right.
Don't just look at it on the hanger and go, oh,
that's
never gonna look good on me. Like, you gotta put it on.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's like that. Yeah.
So it's going into the next thought that we give all the gods a fair chance.
Absolutely.
When I got Odin as my spirit guide, I kind of freaked out, honestly. It was like, oh no, this is the god of like war and death and sacrifice and all this bloodshed. But then I understood because I started working with him and I started to understand what his real intent for me was. And then I was like, you know what? This works for me. This really does work for me. So it's not about good and bad. It really isn't. It's about what works for you.
Especially with the realm of the divine, there's no good and bad. It's balance. It's in this existence that we compare good and bad with our action and our thought. But in the realm of the God, there's no such thing as, I would say, an evil God.
Right.
It's just the way they attribute their quality.
And if you think that you know about evil and non-evil gods, go ahead and look at some Hindu gods. And you're going to see that they have personalities. So they have a positive side, but they also have a pissed off side. So that doesn't make them evil. It's just a necessary balance.
Absolutely. It's almost like, why would if someone's worship, I would say Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty and happiness and joy. But you have someone who worship Ares, is the god of war, bloodshed, he reverent it. But you're like, why don't you worship the god of love? But there's a reason that person is worshiping the god of war, because it's about balance. You know, war unfortunately happen in our everyday stage, but there's a reason why it's happening.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, we're gonna do this, but there's a reason why war created. And and that person, maybe he's worshiping Aries or connect with Aries because he want to understand why is wars happening. What is the value of that? Just like someone is worshiping Aphrodite, they want to know how to connect with love in their everyday life because there's a different stage of love.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in with us
Yes.
to our first episode of Sage Sundays with the Ancient Ones. Next week's topic is going to be trust and the importance of customs. All right. So, guys, this is Pythia signing off and Mr. Angelo.
So, like, comment, share,
subscribe,
and we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. In the meantime, check out for our weekly message videos and for the weekly meditation videos. So remember to know thyself, love thyself, and remember the divine always has your back. Ciao.